to another episode of Coffee with Clover. Thank you all for joining me today. And to my awesome studio audience, thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. We have a full show lined up for you today. We'll be speaking on inflation, doula care for mother and baby. We'll be looking at mental health and fashion for all seasons. Please help me welcome my first guest, Gabe Nassenbaum. Gabe, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
So, Gabe, we're looking at inflation, and normally when inflation happens, they're blaming the sitting government. How can the sitting government be blamed for inflation happening?
Well, first of all, as a society, as people, we always look for very simple, easy to deal with excuses or someone to blame. It's either the government, the banks, the immigrants. But at the end of the day, as usual, life is a little bit more complicated than we would like it to be. And so inflation has various factors associated with it. In some cases, there are external factors, and in other cases, there are internal factors, and sometimes they both work on each other. So the more simpler and easier explanation would be an external factor. So what I mean by that, let's say hypothetically oil went to $300 a barrel. Well, all of a sudden, gas goes up with it. And so we are very dependent on oil as a society, both in the products that we make, because a byproduct of oil is plastics, which is into everything, and further, we rely on energy for virtually every aspect of means of production. So if a factory is producing something, they are going to require the inputs to those production to come from somewhere. Well, you need energy, usually gas, to bring it there. Then once it's produced, you need to deliver it to the wholesaler. Then from the wholesaler, it can go to the retailer or Amazon or any online company that would then ship it directly to the consumer. All that costs money. So in that case, that is an external shock to the economic system, which consequently, if you have a very large increase in price to the means of production, that is going to cause an increase in price into virtually every aspect of everything we buy. And if you'll notice, that occurred when Russia invaded Ukraine, and all of a sudden there was panic. And when there's panic, usually major means of production like gas and oil are going to go up, and that's what happened. And that, to some degree, spurred inflation.
And then it's happening to all countries at the same time or simultaneously?
Well, unequivocally. Every country needs gas. Whether you're a developing country, an established country, or anything in between, you're basically going to need gas for virtually every aspect of your society to function.
Is there any changes we can make, even though it happened externally or internally? Can one plan for inflation?
You see, then there's, now I'm going to go into the internal parts of inflation, which is a lot more complex and has many other factors that would otherwise affect the rising prices that we mostly encounter. The first one is just something that happens in every capitalist society, which the economy runs hot, then it runs cold. So what happens is, things are going well, then all of a sudden demand increases, production increases, and that causes prices to rise. And then many times you would hear that the government then is forced to intervene by increasing interest rates. And so inflation runs rampant, and then the increase in the interest rates is supposed to put the brakes on inflation. But then that causes its own problems, where when you have increase in interest rates, well, that affects people's homes and various other dependents who rely on paying for interest-bearing expenses. And so there's no easy way out of it. Every capitalist system is going to have a boom and a bust, a boom and a bust.
How long does it last, though? It takes every 10 years to happen.
Yeah, on an average, 8 to 10 years.
To happen.
Yeah, you're going to have the economy run hot, and then you have to increase the interest rate. So that's what happened back 2 years ago, where you had the inflation from the increase in gas prices and other factors. And what did the government have to do? They had to start raising interest rates. All of a sudden, people who were used to paying 1.5% for their mortgages for the last 10 years, about 2 years ago, boom, now it's about 6, 7, 8%. Well, that made things very unaffordable for a lot of people. To your point, how can you deal with inflation? Well, there are certain what they call investments that are a hedge against inflation. The most popular one is gold. Now, let's look at gold. Gold 10 years ago was $1,200 an ounce. Well, now it's $2,800 an ounce. So people who would slowly put a small share of their savings into gold would have done very, very well for themselves and more than compensated themselves for whatever the cost of inflation would have been. Lately, in the last 3 to 5 years, particularly since COVID, a very popular hedge against inflation was crypto. The most common one is Bitcoin. Then there's another one that's not as popular, but is Ethereum. And then there's another 1,500 to 2,000, crypto coins that are otherwise not as popular, but people invest in them. But crypto is now at $90,000 US, and it was, 5 years ago? It was in 4,000, 3,000. So that is now becoming another popular investment against inflation. So that's pretty much the main ones. Look, I'm no economist, but I do have I'm in the finance industry, so I do have a general understanding, and I have to keep myself up to date and read up on these things.
It's mainly the sectors and the huge companies that benefit. But consumers face the backlash. How so?
When you say big companies benefit, in what context?
In the context because they're producing?
Well, they may benefit. They may be able to exploit certain things. They may be able to collude. For example, the Loblaw, the parent company, Wesson, they colluded with another company, because they're the major manufacturers of bread, to raise the price of bread. And if you read in the news, they've had to pay a huge penalty. Usually the penalty is never as great as all the money that they make from it, so it's not really a great barrier to prevent people or companies from trying pretty much to rip off the public. But generally speaking, most corporations are not going to be hit that hard with inflation, because they'll just raise the price. In the end, it's consumers. Consumers who are on fixed income.
That's it.
Consumers who are on basically retirees. They're the ones that pay the biggest price, because they're very limited in the scope of their ability to kind of navigate through the process of dealing with this inflation. They usually don't have a lot of money to invest in these hedges of inflation. They're just barely trying to survive. So to put 10, 15, 20% of their income into gold or various other aspects like that are not really within the framework of their capabilities. This is mainly benefits for the upper middle class and the more wealthier class of society.
So how can it be wished away? I mean, I know that's hard to say, because inflation has been happening years back, right? What can the bank do? Is there anything, because a regular consumer putting your money into a savings account, let it sit there, it doesn't do much. How can one prepare for inflation? Can we start teaching?
I guess it's all based on how much money you have. If you're just barely surviving, there's not even savings to
There's no
invest.
time for catch-up either.
Yes, that's where we find unfortunately, the general population, what they have to live with. But if you are in the wealthier class, you have a lot more options. I provide mortgage investments to my clients. So what I will do is I will invest in a mortgage. Some people do not qualify at a bank, and so therefore they have to go to the private sector. Which
so they'll
is
come
more
to you.
They'll come to me and various other individuals like me. So I will offer a 9% return to my clients, which is better than a mutual fund. It's more stable, and it's more of a guaranteed investment. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that, but in essence, it's a more stable way of investing. And so that, again, you have to have an RSP, you have to have a TFSA, you have to have various money already that's available to you. So once you're into the middle class, upper middle class, you can at least find yourself in a position to deal with inflationary factors. But unfortunately, the majority of the general public does not have these means available to them.
But why is it that we only have two choices? It's either a recession or inflation.
Okay, well, to reiterate, that is the nature of the capitalist system. We are motivated by greed and by fear. And both of those factors make people overreact and overreach. So when things are going good, everybody's investing, people are pouring money into this, pouring money into that, and that creates what they call a heated economy. And as that happens, there's more demand, and as there's more demand, that causes prices to rise, right? And then as soon as the government steps in and starts raising interest rates, because inflation can run away very quickly, because what it is a seesaw. What happens, companies have stuff more expensive, they raise the price, then the employees go, oh, it's so expensive to live out there, we want higher wages, and it's just back and forth. It's a back and forth, and that can get, if the government doesn't step in, it can get rampant very quickly.
So the government steps in and it raises interest rates.
By raising interest rates, that makes money more expensive for people to buy stuff and invest in things.
And that's when people get angry.
And then that puts the brakes.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, there's gloom and doom. And everybody becomes very, very pessimistic about the economy. That's where the fear steps in. And so they're afraid to do this and afraid to do that. Most investors, Warren Buffett, who is they call him an oracle, the greatest investor around, he says, when people are buying, I'm selling. When people are selling, I'm buying. Right? So when things are really good, I get out. When things are really bad and the prices are driven down, and I'm talking about stocks in particular, that's when he's looking for good deals. And so that's the general, how the smarter people will deal with the natural cycle of the economy. It cannot be avoided in a capitalist system.
It cannot be avoided. So
Nope.
you think with public knowledge, is there
Yes.
any way they can start teaching it so people can be more cautious with their coins? I know sometimes even for different holidays, it causes people to spend excessively.
You see, that is a function of the society we are in. So now we're coming into more philosophical elements of the issues that you're bringing up, because people are generally discontent. Nobody's really happy. They're not content. And being in a capitalist, materialist society, there are plenty of corporations telling us through their very, very sophisticated and keen advertising, if you buy my product, if you buy my service, your life will be happier. And now, charge it. So they put it on their credit card, and we're all living beyond our means, which is another factor of inflation. Everybody's borrowing to live now, and we'll worry about paying later. And you know what? That's an addiction. And that is also an addiction that is of our government. Every year, we borrow more money than we have money coming in. And so now we have a national debt. Every year it's growing. And that's not just for Canada or the US. All Western countries are heavily in debt. They're either borrowing from other countries, like China holds $1 trillion of debt from the US. They're borrowing from each other. In other words, Canadians are investing in Canadian savings bonds.
So it's a lot.
So that money, as we keep borrowing money, inevitably, you can't borrow forever. Now, if you're a family and they have a credit card, that credit card limit is very well defined. Once you hit $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, they're not giving you any more money. With governments, it's a little bit more complex. Governments can have the right to print money. So they can either borrow money or they can print money, and that's where inflation comes in. As you keep printing more money, because at some point maybe not everybody's going to lend you money, the value of everything becomes more expensive. That causes inflation because there's more money around. And now we're getting into slightly more complex macroeconomic principles. But as you keep printing money, that devalues everything, and so the price of everything goes up. And if you get to an example of other countries, what's called hyperinflation, Zimbabwe is a good example. They have 100% per month inflation. Well, they're printing out $1 trillion notes. The government's always printing out new denominations of money because people just can't afford, people need more of that money to buy the same stuff because they just print more money to pay the expenses.
Wow.
So it gets complex and it can get, but I think we're heading there.
Yeah.
Because our Western economies, everybody's in debt.
Yeah.
So, go on.
And I was just saying, there has to be a solution. I think long-term finance planning is one of the key. So we have to end it here.
Sounds good. I probably said a lot more than...
Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much, Gabe.
You're very welcome.
For coming on and educating our audience. We have more coming up. Don't go away. Let's cheers to coffee. Cheers.
Cheers to coffee.
Welcome back. In this segment, we'll be talking about doula care for mother and baby. Joining me is professional doula practitioner, Shanae Steele. Shanae, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This unique practice of doula.
So in Canada, it's very new. In the States, it's like a regular thing. So in Canada, yes, people are most known for midwife because that's what you need when you are having a baby. You have your OB, you have your family doctor, you have your doula, and that's pretty much it. So as a doula professional, I pretty much come in, I meet with families, sometimes single mothers, discuss with them what to expect in terms of what to expect coming up to birth,
Is it
after
similar?
birth care. I am emotional support. So doula is emotional support. We do nothing medical. We don't do blood check. We don't do any of that. That's the difference between a midwife and a doula. Midwife is a trained medical professional. I am a trained emotional support person.
Okay, so someone's going to have a baby, so you're there with her before.
So how I do things, because I can only speak from how I conduct my doula services, I like to have them as they know that they are pregnant. So I'm with them the whole way so they're comfortable with me, not just me coming in at 32 weeks, 36 weeks when you're almost due and then you don't know me, your emotions are already wild.
So you get familiar in earlier pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And most clients I have are studied from the beginning of pregnancy and they go right into postpartum, which is where I do the best.
Is it only for new moms or for existing moms?
No, it's for mothers in general. So yes, I do have a lot of first-time moms for sure, but I do have moms that is a second time around, third time around, because keep in mind, sometimes people's first birth is the most traumatic, and sometimes they don't have the support. Like me getting into this practice was because I had a client who I helped with her fertility journey as a Yonisteen practitioner, and then she was able to conceive after being diagnosed with endometriosis.
With your help?
Right.
That's
Was
great.
I was part of her
Yes,
support
I
system.
understand. So you're with a mother as soon as she's conceived, and you provide emotional support until she's ready to give birth. How do you prepare yourself to meet with a mother?
So how my process is that I liked for them to interview me as well as I interview them, because we need to be a good fit, meaning that you have to be comfortable with me, you have to be able to share things with me that probably can affect your birthing. So for example, when a person hires me, we're going through interviews, so I have like a 2-sheet of questions that I ask, and I ask them to be prepared. It's normally like an hour. I give people an hour for us to go back and forth, have dialogue. I give a maximum of 2 weeks for them to confirm if I am the doula they would like to go forward with. And when that process is complete, then we kind of go through, like, if it's a couple, it's both of them that is being present. So every interview or every interaction I have, I like both them to be present. The only
So
time,
you're there for dad and mom to be.
yeah. It's support in general, right? So for example, I'm Jamaican. If I were to be pregnant right now, my mom can't come from Jamaica. I need someone like me to come and baby me or mother me. So
Especially if it's the first time.
especially if it's the first time, but not necessarily only your first time, right? You could have parents who are deceased that was present in your first birth, but now you don't have that support now.
And you still need help.
You still need help. So I come in that way. Or I might have high-paying clients where the male in that relationship is hands-off. And I'm going to have to help with certain things. So it really varies depending on who I'm dealing with. So if it's single mother, I am like that next partner. If I'm a family, I'm an addition to that. If I am dealing with a high-paid client, I am just filling in the gap to where they can't fill in.
How long is it for a sitting? An hour, couple hours?
You mean in terms of like the postpartum care or birth?
Not even at postpartum. You're preparing them before birth and you have to go sit with them.
Oh, so if it's
Decent
from the beginning, we're doing it all the way
per
through.
day? Like you go in for an hour or 2 hours?
Not every day.
Oh, okay.
It's not every day. It's like could be once a week, it could be twice a week, it could be once. It depends on the need. There's no actual structure because every client is different. You gotta tweak things based on the client's needs.
So sometimes a postpartum lasts sometimes for a long time.
Postpartum technically lasts up to 7 years.
7 years. And you're prepared to still see that client as long as they need you.
For me, my cutoff is 2 to 3 months. I serve clients till their baby is 2 to 3 months. I don't go past that because then that trying to transition into nanny, and most people try to put me in that nanny category, and I am not a nanny.
Okay. So how do you provide support for the dad? A mom going through postpartum, maybe doing weird stuff. So you'd have to educate the dad on what's happening and how he should deal with it. How do you do that?
So as it depends. I'll start with what I serve now, which is more high-paying clients. So for me, my experience with high-paying clients, I realized that the male is very detached from the mom and the baby. So just giving him the educational concept, having him listening to baby's cues so he know when the baby's crying, when he's fussy, when he needs to be changed, because every baby has a certain sound that indicates what the
Feeding
baby
time.
needs. Yes, so that's the most important thing. Having him be involved with like diaper change, learning how to swaddle, just having his or her own baby in his presence just so that his partner can have the rest.
Are men really into it? How do you find the male respond?
As I said, it really depends on the type of client that I serve. So as I said, high-paying clients are more detached a little bit.
Okay.
If it's like a regular, normal couple, you find that dad is like super involved. Like he wants to learn this, he wants to know what app to use, how to use it effectively. He wants to know the perfect temperature for the bottle when you're warming up breast milk. You see a different shift. When it's single moms now you're kind of helping her with a routine on how to adjust without me. So even though I'm providing the service, I'm giving you tips, tricks on how to survive without me. I don't want you to be reliant on me, but see what I do, learn what it is, and find your own rhythm so you're able to function.
Okay, you're not a nanny, but how do you care for baby?
So for me right now, I do overnight care. So overnight could consist of like a 9 to 7. It could be a 7. It has to be an 8-hour shift for me, right? So I will talk about my current experience. So right now I do overnight from 9 p.m. to 7 in the morning. What that looks like is I show up to the home, I greet the family, they update me on what's happening in the day, if there's different changes with their son. And for me, I have a system. I like to have 2 breast milk bottles already pre-made in the fridge ready for me to go because babies can be fussy after a certain time. Finding out from the mom, how her day was, how long she's breastfeeding for. If she's breastfeeding a 1-month-old under an hour, that's questionable for me because I don't think he's getting enough food. Like just little things to kind of help navigate, trying to figure out how I can help her get into a rhythm. Because there's some moms that are not, when I say their mother instinct hasn't kicked in, it hasn't kicked in. Right? So finding ways to help them get that mother instinct is sometimes can be difficult. Because as I said, in the hiring process, a lot of the time when I'm being interviewed, I'm being asked, do I have a child of my own? And I say, I don't have a child of my own. And sometimes that is the deciding factor of if I can be their doula or not, because they want to know if you've already had a child. I am a firstborn. So
you're a firstborn. What feedback have you gotten having had a child and having to be a doula care provider?
As I said, I deal with a lot of high-paying clients, so I do get the stink look. I do get the stink look when I'm told I don't have any children. But as I said, I am a firstborn. I have been taking care of babies since I was like 11.
Even though they're not your own.
Yeah, cousins, sisters. I've had girlfriends who had a baby like 6 years ago, and she got this up in the hospital. And whose house did she show up to? Mine. For like a week. So I've had that exposure without the official training. But now that I am officially trained, it's a little bit different. I just have a natural nurturing spirit. I guess that's the firstborn in me.
It comes naturally,
It
so
comes
you're able to
supernatural.
provide care.
Yes.
Okay. So doula care. Well, a lot of people I assume, who just knew about midwife would probably consider doula care, because doula, for midwives, is more so like in the hospitals and then they're gone after
No,
birth.
they work in both
They work
spaces,
both
just like how
spaces.
we work in both spaces. We have doulas that only do home births. I go wherever my client needs me. So if I'm needed in a hospital, I'm there. If I'm needed in a birthing center, I'm there. If I'm needed in a hospital, I'm there. I am there for the client.
Okay.
Even though I would love to do more home births personally, I'm not gonna push that on my client. Because let's say a client has a heart condition, I'm not gonna force her to have a baby at home, then that her heart could stop in the middle of birth. Like, I'm not gonna run that. And doulas and midwife work hand in hand. Some people think it's separate, but it work. Once you have the right midwife, we can be like.
And how much do you love doula care? How much do you love it?
It's beautiful. I
Yeah.
can say it's beautiful just
personal.
because you can see the baby growing, you can see the bond between the
Yeah,
parents,
right.
how excited, how nervous, especially when you see the dad hold their kid for the very first time and they're like so nervous.
Yes.
It's so cute. Postpartum has always been where I dwell the highest in, just because I know how to take care of the mom, which is what I talk about, mommy and the mother. Most people, they want to hold the baby. They're all about the baby. Now I'm like, yeah, I like the baby, but how are you feeling, mom? Have you ate today? Have you done this today? Just giving them that checkup and having them feel love for doing something that's so traumatic is where my
Is there a
special.
mom who never wants to embrace the baby so soon?
I have not experienced it. I hope I don't. I hope I don't. But most of the time, it's like, oh my God, that just came out of me. Are you sure?
Yeah. It's the reality.
It's the reality
Yeah.
kicking in,
Right.
right? But I love it. I mean, I do overnights for that exact same reason.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shanae, for coming on and explaining doula care.
Thank
I
you
didn't
for
know it
having
exists.
me.
I thought it was only midwives that are out there.
No.
now that
So
I
that's
know,
my job, is
that's
to
very
educate.
informative, educating. Coming up, we'll talk mental health and how it affects through different seasons. Don't go away. Cheers to coffee.
Cheers to coffee.
Welcome back. Have you ever had changes in your mental state and wondering what could have happened? Well, the weather changes, and this could be one of the effects. Today, here to tell us about mental health is Dr. Samir. He is an international trained doctor, is a teacher, and also a great chef. Dr. Samir, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, you know when the weather changes, people
Yes.
have different mood swings, and because it gets darker, why is it so that during this time of year, mental health is on its rise?
Generally, when you think about the term mental health, it's an ocean. It's a very broad spectrum. And you've ever heard feeling under the weather, feeling the
Yes.
blues? So it is kind of scientifically proven that what happens around you kind of affects how we are. And when you do a bit of a deep dive, you realize that what happens in your mind does affect your body. So normally when I've now currently dedicated my life to teaching, informing people and the public about different aspects of first aid and health in general. And when we talk about the term heart attacks, right? Everyone knows what I like to call the classic Hollywood heart attack, where you're shown in the TV that,
Yeah,
but
and you
heart attacks are a lot more deeper than that. And now, what we're realizing is that a lot of younger and younger people are going into ERs with unexplained chest pain. And when you do a bit of an analysis into it, what do you think is the number one cause of chest pain among younger and younger people
It's
in today's
stress,
day?
right?
Stress, correct. Now, the question one should ask is, if you think about the traditional definition of a heart attack, which is it's a blockage in any of the blood vessels going to the heart, how can stress, which is something you don't see, it is something you feel, cause a physical blockage in any of the pipes going to your heart? And that's something that one needs to think about. And the answer is stress. And when you look at stress, there are two kinds. There's acute and chronic. Now, it is now scientifically also proven that chronic stress over time increases your cortisol levels. And due to lack of time, I'm not going to explain what cortisol does, but consistently what it does, it affects your sugar and the way your fat's broken down. And over time, that fat mixes with the food that we take in and causes something called plaque. Now, plaque doesn't go to your chin, chest, stomach, or hips. It goes to the walls of your arteries first. So externally, you might look like you don't put on a single dress shirt size. Physically, there might not be a change, but internally, your pipes are getting completely jammed up. And next thing you know, you're 38 years old, shoveling the snow on a Monday morning or in weathers like this, and you suddenly collapse with chest pain. So when I analyzed it, I realized that humans generally, and I'm saying humans because I'm not targeting anyone,
Yes.
we have two major problems that we deal with. One, we tend to be more reactive than proactive as a species, and we also show a lot of favoritism to the body over the mind. So everyone talks about physical hygiene, right? But the question I leave my audience always with is, do we maintain good mental health and emotional hygiene? Because I'd like to argue that as we age, you sustain a lot more emotional and mental health trauma than physical. Right? And now it's proven that, over time that is causing a lot of effects, brain fog, fatigue, and a lot of things. And I will be starting a podcast series explaining how, because when you think about emotional hygiene, it's an ocean again. And we could take it into subtopics and explain how each and every emotion can kind of contribute to your physiology and the chemical changes and imbalances in your body. So when I say emotional hygiene, people go, what are you trying to say? And I'm talking about, it could be anything from things such as, panic attacks, anxiety, overthinking, made to question your sense of self-worth. A big one these days being in toxic relationships, and that does not always mean romantic.
Okay.
Right? So over time, I was reading an article recently that says the new upcoming pandemic is more than something being viral, is being in toxic and narcissistic relationships.
It causes a lot of stress too.
And people are now getting aware of what a self-care routine looks like. But we get so busy in survival mode, basically, that we don't think of self-care, and we realize that, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help people around you have successful relationships if you don't take care of yourself first.
So we should apply self-care, and that will help you to
Yes, as much
not
as
be
it is
stressed as
important.
much.
Yes, so every human being is a caregiver at some capacity. So if you're a mother, if you're a sibling, you care for people around you. While you'd like to do that, you need to care for yourself first. And that looks different for different people, because everyone comes from different walks of life. That's what got me into cooking. So I did being in trauma and being in the medical field in East Africa mostly. I went through PTSD of my own, and that's how I can talk about it, because I've been in that dark mental space, and I've had to practice a lot of self-care to be able to pull myself out of it.
Did you have a support?
At that time, no. Again, we're still understanding mental health and emotional trauma and how to support it. We're getting better. Are we there yet? No. Also, there's a cultural context to it as well. And when you come from families that believe that there's no such thing as depression, it's only how you feel, or you'll get over it, or you'll snap out of it. It's not that simple. Science tells us that depression is also a product of a chemical imbalance in your brain. So sometimes you might need pharmaceutical help. That's okay. Sometimes you might need cognitive therapy. That's okay. So I think the first step is to start normalizing feeling a certain way and knowing that each journey is unique. So when that's the case, you need to come up with your own strategy for self-care and figure out what works for you.
Your own strategy. One could be getting yourself in an environment where you're happy. You have to create your own happiness. How could you do it in that sense?
True. It's a very layered question. Number one, if you cannot take time away from yourself, and many times we see people in social settings and family dynamics where if you want time for yourself, you're kind of gaslit into thinking you're the crazy one, everything is fine type of thing. So the first thing is, if you can remove yourself from that environment, great. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. Maybe you have a partner and children, so you can't just one day disappear, right? So that means then you have to start building emotional shields around yourself. De-escalate, don't personalize, take your time, and just kind of focus on yourself, because when you do focus on yourself, you will realize that you have a lot more energy to give. The key is not personalizing. Again, it's not that easy. Each setting is different, so if you can figure out what works for you, what doesn't, that would be great.
Yeah. Funny you said you started cooking. I remember my last time in studio was in 2019 when the pandemic hit. And after, lots of my guests didn't show up that day in studio. And as the pandemic went on, I started thinking, how can I make people happy out there? So I started a series, 12 months, 12 dinner parties.
Okay.
And I would do it outdoors, and I would prepare meals and said, okay, you cannot go to a restaurant. Here's what you can do at home and still be happy, because everyone was in stress mode. So cooking, it was one way to help others. So I understand.
Yeah,
what you're
totally.
saying.
So one thing I realized early on in life, I've been to about 30 countries, and there's nothing that unifies humanity more than music and food.
Food.
Right?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed cooking, and I trained myself up, and I have a cooking channel. So again, for me, self-care is about seeing the happiness in people when they taste my food.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr.
problem.
Sumer. Coming up, we'll have fashion for all seasons. Don't go away. Cheers to coffee.
Cheers to coffee. Thank you.
Welcome back. In this segment, we're touching fashion for the season. We have organizer Shelley Jarrett here, and she'll be talking about Milton Fashion Week coming up. Shelley, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Clover.
So we have the pre-launch. You have the pre-launch of Milton Fashion Week coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But the Fashion Week is going to be in July. What can you tell us about the pre-launch?
Okay, so I'm bringing Milton Fashion Week, and it's going to be launched July 2025, but we're having a pre-launch on December 28th in Milton. It's going to be at 77 Thompson Road, and it's going to be exciting. And what we're doing, we're just inviting the community to come out to see who the organizers are. We're going to have a casting for the models for the face of Milton Fashion Week. We have one male, one female going to be cast. And so they're going to be talking about, for a year, they're going to be talking about Milton and bringing in the arts and the diversity and culture into Milton, and what the fashion show is going to be all about. So they're going to be attending events and so forth, just to talk a little bit more about Milton. So it's going to be exciting. So we have that. We have women 50 plus is going to be on the runway.
Really?
Yes, so
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So we're inviting all the women 50 plus who want to show their stuff on the runway, and we're also going to be having a designer on the runway. So it's going to be exciting. It's a full day. It's from 12 to 5. And it's a free event to the community. We just ask for a donation. If you purchase a ticket, it's a donation. It could start at $5, whatever. We just want people in the community to come out to see. We want to bring in, for example, I already have inquiries about internationally. People want to come from overseas to attend the fashion show. Okay. So it's going to be spectacular.
Internationally, to Milton.
To Milton, yeah, to Toronto, to the GTA. So people are excited already. I'm getting a lot of inquiries. The models are excited.
So for that day, you're going to have one fashion show or several fashion shows throughout the day?
There's going to be one fashion show.
Oh,
but there's going to be some runways. Like I said, women 50 plus.
That's one?
Yes,
okay.
And we're going to have an actual art designer on the runway.
Do you determine?
Showcasing his fashion.
Okay, so I was going to ask, do you determine what will be shown, or the designers determine
No,
that?
the designers determine what will be shown,
okay.
right? And so, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
So male designers, female designers?
Yeah, well, the designer that's going to be on the runway on the 28th, it's a male designer, right? And he's here in Toronto, and he'll be showcasing his designs.
Okay, why Milton? Why Fashion Week?
Well, I moved to Milton a few years ago, and I just love the city. I feel as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for opportunities, and if there's a need, you fill the need. Right, I love fashion, I love film, and I thought this is great to start it here.
So you see the need to bring a fashion show
Oh,
in?
yes, of course. Yeah, because it's a young city growing and with young families, and I want to bring some culture, some diversity and inclusivity into the city, and I think it's going to be exciting.
Have you gotten in touch with designers outside of that city, Milton itself?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of inquiries from being on Instagram. A lot of people are seeing the website and inquiring about how they can be part of the fashion show.
And what time does it start?
You mean the pre-launch?
The pre-launch.
Oh, it's from 12 to 5, December 28th. Okay.
And that is just the pre-launch on December 28th.
Yes.
What about the Fashion Week, which is coming up after?
Yeah, well, we're starting, like I said, we're starting to get designers. People are inquiring about it because, yeah, and we're hoping to have, it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be big.
So international is coming in next year, not for the
Next
pre-launch.
year, yes.
No,
They want to
okay.
know what this is all about and they want to be part of it.
So on that day, what part do you play?
Well, I'm going to always be the producer and the owner of the Fashion Week, right? But I'm having other people that are collaborating with me, other partners. That's going to be CCA Canada is going to be the production for the runway. So yeah, we
CCA,
partner
okay.
together, yes.
Okay. And you do not determine what fashion comes out. She will bring whatever is
Yeah,
trending.
well, we'll talk about it and we'll see what's best
Okay.
for the brand.
Will you,
Yes.
don't you think it would be interesting if you hit the runway yourself?
I might. You got to come out and see me on the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in full force.
Yeah, because it's what I enjoy. This is going back like many, many years. When I left corporate, I started my own business. I went into image consulting. I started out in image. So I always like to dress up, dress other women, and that was my thing, right? But I sort of moved on to other things. I moved into film. But my love is fashion.
So finally now you're doing fashion. Is there a chance that you will be capturing this for film, even for a documentary?
I don't have thoughts of it right now because it's like so much involved in the production. It's not simple like that. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward for a full day fashion galore.
Yeah, and like I said, I just want the community to come out on the 28th to just to meet and greet with who the organizers are.
Will there be vendors?
No, not this time. There
Okay.
won't be.
So it's just pure
yeah,
entertainment.
because it's holiday, it's Christmas, it's holiday. People just want to come out and
So it's pure
mix and
entertainment?
mingle. Entertainment, yeah. We'll have a DJ and playing some nice music. And the runway is enough with the
Okay.
models. We'll have fun with the models.
And everyone come alive.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who is going to win the face of Milton Fashion Week. And we've started to do one male, one female. So we don't want to leave out anyone, right?
So in
Everybody's
winning,
inclusive.
in winning at this pre-launch, how will they go into the actual launch
Oh,
in July?
we'll have some judges and they're going to pick. We have like over 30 models that apply.
Okay.
So it's a full
okay.
runway.
And then whoever wins will be highlighted in July.
Yeah, oh yes,
Definitely.
they're the face. And
Okay.
we're going to do like a photo shoot and a lot of exciting stuff coming up
Okay.
in the new year.
That sounds pretty exciting. So do not miss your chance to be at Milton Fashion Week on December 28th. Organizer Miss Shirley Jarrett. Shirley, thank you for coming on and sharing this exciting community activity. I'm looking forward to it myself. And
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Don't go away. We have more fashion coming up. We see the models on the runway. Stay with us. Cheers to coffee. Welcome back. Now it's time for our fashion focus with runway producer Clarice. Clarice, thank you for coming on.
Clover, thank you for having me.
And for bringing these amazing models. Now for the season, we know it's cold and there are different fabrics, there are different types of layering. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, okay, like of course, for the Ontario winter, we know it can be very unpredictable. It could actually really cold, but you don't know it's more than cold at -30. So the key for the season during winters is layering. So of course, if you want to keep that silhouette really nice and you don't look like a football player, you have to be very smart in layering. And the key actually for this is to have a nice base clothing. So when I say nice base clothing, it actually comes with 2 layers. Like if you plan to stay outdoor for a long time, then come up with a really heavyweight base layer. Like for example, if you want to go skiing or like be outdoor for the long time, then come up with that really warm layer. But of course, you don't want to wear that if you intend to just be outside for a while from your car and go inside the building, because you're going to be sweaty inside the building. So I recommend for normal winter, you just come out with the lightweight winter base layers. So when you have a sleek, nice base clothing, you can still come up with really nice clothing as an outerwear. Because by that base layer, you're already warm enough.
Because I was going to ask you if you're talking layering before putting the coat on.
Yes.
It's layering outer garment.
Yeah, it's the inner garment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like for example, like in this thing, you can see the layers, right?
I notice the colors are the same. Why the same
Oh,
color?
yeah, good question. Like usually every year there's a forecast. Like for example, the 2024 is ending. Like the fashion gurus come up with certain color coordinates as a forecast. What is the color for 2025?
So they're the ones who determine. And then
Yeah,
the
they're the
designers fall in place.
Yeah, a lot, like not just designers, stylists, and the stores. Like for example, a fashion guru like predicted that the color would be like now the prediction for next year is one of the color, because there's a lot of colors for 2025. One of it is like the medley of browns. So we picked that up with these models. So if you
said
see
something
them,
about chocolate.
yeah, chocolates. So different
Okay.
shades of chocolate brown. So if you can see there, we go light, and then we have the mid one, and we have go like a little more on like dark browns.
And what's her name?
Yeah, this is Libby, model Libby.
And what can you say about what Libby is wearing?
Okay. Libby is actually wearing a nice, this is not positioned for winter but because of the layering, it can be a winter thing. She can actually put on like an overcoat, and she can go outside.
With
and
or
nothing
without
show.
stockings, right?
Because we have like an overcoat.
Oh,
And then
okay.
it can cover that. If you have a woolen overcoat, and then she's
she
good to go.
She can bear it,
She can
right,
bear it.
right.
And then Stella, this is our model, Stella. She's also wearing this like black cover up. So this is definitely a strapless gown. That's not gonna work for winter, but with the layering, it can work.
She looks very stylish, even
Very
though,
much,
yeah. So
yeah.
you can be stylish, even though it's cold.
You can be stylish
Yes.
even if you're cold. Like the key is if you don't, if like sometimes, you know, like one thing that actually happens is that if it's positioned as a base layer outfit, it's expensive. So even if you cannot afford that, you can just do on the normal layering of your outfit. So for example, for fall, this is good to go outside. For winter, put a nice woolen overcoat.
Okay.
So this one is good as fall with an overcoat all the way from her knees and below. This is already a winter
So she's
gear.
okay to just step outside.
Yes.
Right. Ready to go.
Yeah. And we have here Giovanna.
Hi, Giovanna.
I love this color combination. It's the mid chocolate color. So look at that. Like we don't know what's underneath that, her dress, right? So this can be warm.
This
with
is
just
a
scarf.
color contrast, right?
This is a color contrast.
Right.
That coordinates somehow. So they're actually showing the forecast for 2025 with its shades of chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when 2025 hits, wear them or you go for...
Yeah, this is one of the color suggestions. Of course, style is always
Suggestion.
personal. Yeah,
Okay.
but like some people need some guidance as to
Right.
what to wear. This is it. But if you really love purple, go for the purple. Like it's just a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then she could change her scarf to
You
a
can
different
change
color.
your scarf for a different
Okay.
color, like it's just a touch of pink, and then you can do other color of your scarf, or even design your scarf in a different way. And what's amazing with the scarf is that when you're outside, you need the warmth of pashmina, but when you're inside, you can take it out. because like it's gonna be warm with that inside the building. If you're smart in styling your outfit, your clothes can always be recycled. These colors are basic. Even if it's not forecasted 2025, these colors are amazing anytime. 2026, 2027, you can wear them.
Okay.
And one thing also I want to, that I believe in fashion is the sustainability.
Sustainability.
Like for example, this looks expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive. And then like, of course, on the winter, the wool or combination of wool and other materials, pure wool is very expensive, or even with wool component is expensive. It should not stop you from looking great.
Right.
You can go thrifting. And like thrifting is actually an amazing way of supporting the planet. So I personally, I support a lot like recycling and thrifting, and it doesn't sacrifice style. And it doesn't, you don't need to rob the bank for thrifting.
Okay, so you hear it from the runway producer herself. You do not have to break the bank to look like this. Thank you, models. Thank you all for coming on. Thank you so much to my viewers. Thank you to my studio audience. You were a gracious host. And that's it for Coffee with Clover. Thank you for joining. We'll see you again next time. Cheers to coffee.
Cheers to coffee.